trip competition with count them, four cash combos in 24 hours. His career earnings at Renatus are over $1.6 million. And he's set and broken his own records of having earned $142,000 in 1 month, including $122,000 during a Corona month. And he earned $300,000 on the affiliate side of our business in about 70 days. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how this man even finds the time to take his cape and his superhero costume to the dry cleaners. Please get on your feet, put your hands together, and give him a big, warm Chicago welcome, Dr. Nate Lambert. Nate, come on out, my friend.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
There he is. So glad you could join us today.
Yes. Thank you for a very warm introduction there.
My pleasure.
I am so excited, guys. I am so excited to be with you today. I know Chicago is just, you guys are setting the standard for the nation. I love what you guys have done, everything that you are. I love your leaders. I mean, Bobby T was telling me that he had like 400 people at the national conference, which is got to be a record, and I love Scott and Nancy. They're just, you guys have such amazing leadership. Jay's been a good friend for so long, and I just, I can't say enough about, how I feel about you guys and just all the wonderful things you guys have achieved. And to be honest, let me just kind of just mention my first experience with Renatus was actually Scott Rowe. I mean, he is a big part of why I got started, was because, he came out to Utah and that was my first event, was seeing him give the pitch on Thursday night. I was blown away. And so a lot of why I'm here today is due to Scott Rowe. And so I'm grateful to be a part. Thanks for bringing me out. And I have a lot of exciting things to share with you guys. I'm going to try and really just share all my secrets and everything that I've done to make this happen, to become the number one commission earner in the country. Scott's still making more revenue for the company, but I'm grateful to be a part of this. So what I'm going to do, guys, I know some of you were there at Nationals. And some of you have already heard my story, but I'm going to tell you my story. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about, some of how to achieve big, massive goals, how to set massive goals and how to achieve those big, massive goals. And then I'm going to really unveil all my secrets of social media, because that's been the number one way that I've been able to achieve this, is through social media. And then here's the cool thing. Like, one of my top mentors is Rob Sperry. He's taught me so much of what I know and do with social media. And so I've actually wanted to share some of the stage today with Rob, because he is incredible. I'm actually going on my second year with one-on-one mentoring with Rob. And that's been an absolute game changer for me. I wouldn't be here without him. So you've got a special treat for the last hour to hear directly from Rob. So I'm gonna show you some of the things I learned, and then you're gonna hear from the master himself about how all this works. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit of my story. And by the way, think of some questions, because I am definitely going to have some Q&A sessions, if that's okay. I think you guys are cool with that. So I'll have some Q&A and give you guys a chance to ask me some questions, because I think that's where a lot of the magic happens. So here's my story. I was the valedictorian of Brigham Young University, psychology major. And I love to learn. I love learning and I love teaching, which is why I love doing things like this, right? Learning and teaching is so great. So I thought, hey, what better thing to do than to be a professor, right? Learning and teaching. Little did I know I'd be sitting in my office all day and teaching very little. But this is what drove me to go to Florida, to Florida State University to pick up my PhD. And I learned from this gentleman here, Frank Fincham. He taught me so much about how to publish, how to build systems. And, I used what I learned from him to just become a publishing machine. I mean, I was publishing at a crazy rate. And it really I became internationally known for my research. My research was primarily on gratitude and on prayer and romantic relationships. So I studied this. It was fun for a while. In fact, I got to get all kinds of awards. Nothing quite like Bob does, right? But I went to Australia to receive a top research award. I went to the Middle East to present some research there. I got invited to England to do a symposium on my gratitude research with some of the other gratitude scholars from around the world. It was fun, right? And but after a while, of sitting in my office all day, every day, I started feeling like this guy who said, if I died and went straight to hell, it would take me a week to realize I wasn't at work anymore. So I'm sure, by the raise of hands, how many of you have felt like this at some point in your life, right? I can't actually see you, but I'm sure that a lot of you are probably raising your hand right now. Okay, so that's how I felt. So I knew I needed to make a change. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life cooped up in an office, just feeling bored and dissatisfied. So a friend of mine gave me a book on real estate investing. And I read that book cover to cover and decided, man, this is exciting. I want to start a new life path in real estate investing. But I knew that I needed to get some help. I knew I needed some education. So I decided to first of all, I joined a company, and for compliance reasons, they made me take all the names out. But that's good. But let's just call it the Buy and Hold Rental Finder Company. This company helped me locate a property and buy it with my own money, my own credit, just through the traditional means. It was down in Arizona. I remember, those of you who have done your first deal, you remember what that's like. It's terrifying and exciting all at the same time. And they helped me through that first deal, and I got it, and it turned out pretty well, except that, I had to put $42,000 down, and that was like all my life savings. So I'm like, there's so many cool things with this real estate, but how do I keep on going? How do I keep going? So I knew I had to get creative, and I went to one of the guru companies. I won't mention the name, but you guys know what these companies are like. They come into town, they give you a good show, and then they're like the circus. What does the circus do at the end of the weekend, guys? They pack up and leave, right? They pack up and leave. So here I was, all excited, and then everyone left, and I had to try and figure out how to do this on my own. I was calling these probate leads. People were yelling at me on the phone, and I'm like, this is terrible. Like, I don't know how I can do this. So I'm like, all right, I know this is great. I'm going to get my realtor's license. This is the house that I lived in and when I was a realtor. So I got my license, and I thought, hey, I'm going to finish the basement, and I'll represent myself so I can save 3% of commission. I'm going to make all this money. So I had people living in the house for free rent, and they would be working on the house. I mean, I was a cheapskate. I didn't have much money as a professor. And so I had to get creative. But then finally I had to like just pull out all the stops and I had to max out all my credit cards, had to max out my 401k loan until finally, I found Renatus, but right before I found Renatus, my car broke down. Literally every card was maxed out. The house wasn't selling, and I was like, man, I am in trouble. I had to beg my brother to let me use his car until my house could be sold. Because I was in a desperate, terrible spot. And I imagine some of you have felt this way before, right? I mean, have you been in this kind of position? This is where I was when I met Scott Rowe at a regional event in Utah. And, I was looking at what the education offered. I learned about seller financing. And that one principle, changed my life. It's that seller financing. And here's the disclaimer, you guys all, that we need to read these things aloud to everybody. But that changed everything. I was able to list my house. I was able to put seller financing as an option. And literally I made $109,000 profit. Just to put that into perspective, which again is not typical, but just to put that into perspective, that was almost 2 years of my professor salary that I made in one day. And which by the way, I did that again yesterday. I sold another house that I lived in for $103,000 check, which was awesome. So it's been like the fourth or fifth, 4 or 5 times since then that I made over $100,000 in one deal. And guys, that is a powerful, powerful day. And it was that day that I decided, hey, I am going to be a real estate investor. I am going to be a real estate investor. So I went ahead, paid off all my debt, just got rid of those student loans, moved my family to Fiji. I'm like, we had watched House Hunters International. I'm like, hey, we don't have a home. Why don't we just go live in Fiji for a while? We just got this big profit, so we did. We just packed up and sold everything we owned and moved to Fiji, lived on this beautiful property, and I had an acre of land. It overlooked the ocean. And the house that inspired our dream was House Hunters International. So I decided, let's apply. We applied and got accepted. We were on an episode of House Hunters International. If you've ever seen any of these House Hunters shows, it's a total fake, right? Just like most reality TV. It's like a dramatic reenactment. We had already chosen our house 4 months before, but it was like we were going and they moved all our stuff out. We had to go in and pretend it was our first time ever seeing our own house that we've been living in for 4 months. It was great, right? That's how it is. It was fun to be on TV. But then we're like, all right, this is fun, but there's only so long that you can be on vacation. We were out there for 7 months. And so we moved back and got serious in real estate. So my journey can be depicted by 3 modes of transportation. When I was a professor and in graduate school, I was on food stamps, guys. I mean, literally like 3 kids, poverty level. I'll never forget the day that we realized that we needed to get on food stamps. I was like one of those bucket up, Republican households. It's like, I'm not going to take any help from the government. And then I'm like, actually, I need some help. So, for several years, we were on food stamps. Even after I became a professor, I barely made enough for one car. And so I still had to ride my bike, which I loved this bike, right? But, it was like when it's negative 20 degrees, you know, or in Florida when it was 90 degrees with 100% humidity. It was rough, right? And then when I got back from Fiji, I bought my first car. A Honda Civic. And this was the house that we just sold yesterday. And, you know, that was... So what I did was I went and started getting deals. I started hustling. You know, this is probably the stage where a lot of you guys are at, where you're hustling. You're trying to make things happen, trying to get there. And I was able to get eventually enough cash flow to, it was actually the month that I beat the record for the first time, that I beat the 6-figure record. A lot of that was because of my decision to buy this buddy. I started telling everybody, hey, I'm going to buy this Tesla, and I said, which of these cars do you think I should buy? I had like a Maserati, a Tesla, and a Porsche. And I'm like, which one should I get? And everyone voted for the Tesla. That was the one I wanted anyway. And it was funny because, you know, the car, I ended up, the car paid for itself. Just the announcement of the car was able to get a lot of people who saw me doing deals, saw me making things happen. A lot of those people were like, man, this guy's actually he's really doing well. He's not just saying it, but look, he's actually buying this Tesla. I made $160,000 in 2 months through Renatus, right? Through this incredible marketing system. And that's literally, you know, was more than double what I needed to pay for this Tesla. So turned out great. Now, I'm not saying go buy a luxury vehicle. I'm saying go do some real estate deals. And when you get enough passive income to make the payments, then go buy something fun, right? So you always gotta have your assets paying for your liabilities. But it's definitely fun to have, believe me. And then I don't know if Bob knew my whole story at the time, but back in 2018, he gave me what was one of my, the Freedom Rider. In fact, there's a picture of it. I have it here sitting on my, this is kind of one of my favorite awards because, you know, I was that kid just struggling and riding a bike and as my main form of transportation, right? And now, thanks to Renatus, thanks to this amazing system, you know, I've become financially free. So anyway, it's been a powerful experience, a powerful journey. I've loved sharing my journey. I know a lot of you guys have been following my journey for several years, you know, on Facebook, and that's a lot of what I'm going to talk about today. I know JR did a great job of introducing me. In case you missed anything, let me just kind of throw out a couple of reasons why you may want to really pay attention, take some notes today. You know, Renatus has paid me over 1.6. Now it's probably like 1.7 million. Several national awards. Been a top 5 income earner for 3 years. I'm going to talk a little bit about this because I know this was billed for, hey, how do you make 140 plus grand in a month? And so how do you do that? I'm going to talk about this and tell you my secrets of what happened. You know, I was able to take first place in the London competition. I've got people in over 40 states now. I've gone nationwide. I mainly just, you know, the Corona wasn't even a big change for me. I'm just sitting here on Zoom talking to people all day, you know? So this hasn't really changed. Not much has changed. And then, you know, it was a huge honor to get that #1 commission earner award from Bob. That was something I set my mind on, and about in September is when I decided, hey, I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna make it happen. I started shouting out affirmations. You can see my vision board. I put, I run on this treadmill, and I have a vision board with affirmations. Every day, I'm shouting out these affirmations, and this is what I'd recommend to you. Have that start out with a peak state. You got to have a peak state to reach the goals. Have them in front of you. Shout them out. Every day I shout out, I'm the number one commission earner in Renatus, right? And that's, it was having those affirmations, having a vision board of me. Literally, I had a picture of me with an award that looked like this, and it said number one commission earner in Renatus. And so, that's what helped me get here, and you guys can do it too, right? 5-star winner circle now is really opened up and gives anyone a chance to go to Danube, to Germany and Vienna, Austria. I mean, this is going to be an amazing trip. I can't wait to go on that with 4 other top leaders. So you can do it. And again, this income is not typical, right? And if you want to go look at, what everyone else is, the average earnings, then you can see where to go, right? And the income disclosure statement, which I'm sure you have a copy of. All right. So just need to get all those disclaimers in there. So let's start off, guys, by talking about what are some of the ways that you can have these big income bursts in your business. I'm going to talk about what really launched me into, I just decided, I decided at the beginning of September. I remember this day. It was an amazing day. I went to LDS. I went to the temple. I was thinking about this and praying about it. And I'm like, yes, I can do this. I can make this happen. 30 combos in 60 days. I'm like, I'm going to do this. So I'm going to share with you guys some of the principles that helped me get to this goal, helped me get to the 30 combos in 60 days. It ended up being 70 days. So it took me 10 days longer, but I'll still take it, right? So here's what I'm going to tell you to do is to set a stretch goal. Set a stretch goal. And for you, it's not going to be, 30 combos in 60 days. That's not going to be a realistic goal for most people, right? So think of a goal that's going to be realistic for you, but that will be a stretch goal. I remember talking to Bobby T. He was like, he's telling me about getting over 400 people in nationals. I'm like, that's a cool stretch goal, right? I mean, that was amazing. So that's the kind of goal that you need to set. What are you going to do to really stretch yourself? Because for me, man, I just get amped up when I have a goal like that I'm pursuing. Maybe it's making $10,000, getting 5-star qualified, right? Maybe it's making $10,000 in a month. I mean, start out smaller, right? And then you get bigger and bigger, but have a stretch goal that you can think that you can accomplish. And then once you have that goal, work it backwards. And here's what just 1 second. I'm going to grab a quick drink. I forgot to bring water. All right, sorry about that. So work it backwards. So for me, I realized how, I had to look at how many people I was closing, how many one-on-ones I was doing, right? And this is the level of detail that you need to get to. You maybe don't know what is realistic right now. You maybe don't know what numbers are realistic. Talk to your 5-star affiliate, right? Ask him or her, how many people do I need to talk to? How many people do I need to invite? To be able to sell 30 combos in 60 days. Like I had to send out messages to like 1,300 people or something like that. It was crazy. And then I was doing about 10 one-on-ones a week. 10 one-on-ones a week was like my goal. And I was getting about, 5 or 6 people that were jumping in at least at their essentials to try it out and see what it was like. So, I knew exactly what numbers I needed to hit to make that goal. And so a goal is meaningless unless you have concrete numbers to go by. So create those concrete numbers, work it backwards, and then create some accountability. So let me talk a little bit about what I mean by accountability. And you'll see in my situation how this created a lot of accountability. So I had decided actually to do this goal right before the leadership retreat. So actually it wasn't in September. It was actually at the beginning of August. Okay. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it happen. And I knew to create the utmost accountability, I needed to put myself on notice, right? So I thought, all right, I am going to literally go straight to the CEO and tell him about my goal. So I had breakfast with Bob. I'm like, Bob, here's what I'm planning to do. I knew that was going to really put my feet to the fire, and it was going to force me to be super accountable to everybody. And bless his heart, Bob went and took that knowledge, and he went and told the entire, pack and pit teams that were all on one bus, right? So suddenly I had massive accountability. And I didn't dare say anything to Scott, but I went and told Michael. I said, look, you're going down, buddy. I said, I'm going to beat you this year. Right. So I put him on notice, and I just let not only the universe, but I let, most of the leadership in Renatus know that, hey, this was going to be something that I was going after, right? Because I wanted it. I wanted it bad. And it was going to start with getting these 30 combos in 60 days. And here's the other thing. I'm not just telling you to go and tell so-and-so, although it helps, it gives you some accountability, but I would also establish an accountability partner. I work with Dane Clark is a good friend of mine. I know he came out to Chicago a couple months ago. He's a wonderful leader, inspiring guy. And he and I literally sit down every week and we have a mastermind. We talk about things that are working, things that we're struggling with, and we're sharing our goals. We're sharing our numbers with each other on a weekly basis. So having this kind of accountability is huge. It's so important. So definitely create that accountability for yourself. And then the next step is to collaborate. You can't just do it by yourself, right? You gotta create a team. You gotta create, whether it be your 5-star affiliate, whether it be, the bigger community at large. Figure out how you're going to collaborate with other people. Like, for instance, I got Rob Sperry. I hired him as my coach when I was really serious about this. I'm like, okay, I gotta get the expert here to get me to this next level. So I collaborated with Rob Sperry. I collaborated with Dane Clark. I have a friend of mine who joined my team in Pennsylvania named Edmund. And that brings me to my next point. It's about collaborating, but also testimonials. testimonials, three-way calls. This kind of stuff is so important. So I have a determined dozen, or I have one of my team members, he was on his 10th real estate transaction. He's crushing it. His name's Edmund, and I said, "Hey, Edmund, would you be willing to get on the calls, the one-on-ones that I'm doing with these leads that I'm working? And can you give a testimonial?" So, and he's been willing to do that. I've helped him a lot, and he's been willing to jump onto my calls and just tell these people, "Hey, look, I've worked with Nate. This Renatus education is amazing. You're going to love this." And that testimonial has been huge. So, definitely do whatever you can, especially when you're having a one-on-one, to link up with someone in your community, someone on your team, your 5-star affiliate, someone. It's just get someone in your group to give a testimonial to Renatus. Testimonials are so important because they motivate people and they make it feel very, very real. So, what was the outcome of that? Well, I was able to set a new record in Renatus with 143,000 in a month. And I was able to get 30 commas in 70 days. It took an extra 10 days. It's okay, right? You're not always going to hit your goal perfectly. You want to get as close as you can. But one other thing I was going to say is that after this challenge, I went to Hawaii, and then I went on a 3-week trip to India, and then we decided to move into our dream house. And boy, I had every excuse in the world, right? I mean, moving, you guys know how much time that takes. You're trying to sell your old house or trying to get it ready for Airbnb. Then we ended up selling it after Corona hit. And so it was a crazy, crazy time. But I knew that, look, my vision board right there said I was going to be the number one commission earner in the country. And so I'm like, I got to do this. And so I even beat this outcome in the last. Then I went to Disney World on top of everything else, right? I took my family to Disney World. So I got back in the middle of February. We had just moved into our house. We were still trying to get moved in, still trying to get everything situated. And I'm like, I've literally got a month to, I realized I had 33 days because for some reason I thought the competition went till the end of March, but I called Bob and he's like, it's middle of March. So I'm like, oh man, I don't know if there's any way I'm going to be able to do this. And, but I applied those same principles that I just taught you. And I, from the middle of March till from the middle of February till the middle of March, in 33 days, I made $210,000 in commissions. So I just got really serious and went after it. So technically I didn't beat this record because it was spread across 2 months, but in a 33-day period, I made $210,000 because I got serious about my goals and I was going to do everything I could to make it happen. So that's just a couple ideas, a little bit of a framework for what you need in terms of your mindset, in terms of collaborating, in terms of accountability, in terms of goals. These principles are going to really make it happen. So now that I've kind of gotten through some of the more general mindset things that are important, I really want to give you guys some specific tools. These are really specific tools that have made a huge difference for me. In fact, 95% of my sales have come online, and I think we need to increasingly move online. I'm gonna give, between me and Rob today, we're gonna give you some powerhouse nuggets in terms of how to really create a thriving online business. Now, one of the awesome tools that you now have is Helios. Thanks to Nancy, Roe, and Eric, and they did such a great job in putting this tool together. It's an amazing tool that you'll be able to use. So that's incredible. I hope you've been really jumping on those trainings. And then, like I mentioned, for me, it was the biggest game changer for me was making Rob Sperry my mentor, right? And he's such an inspiring guy that I look up to on a personal level. I went to Hawaii, right? I went to Hawaii to learn from Rob Sperry. And that was such a game changer of an experience for me. The things I learned in that workshop, some of these things I'm going to have him train about here today in about an hour and a half. He's going to jump on and do some training. So one of the things that he taught me about was Facebook groups. And he's going to go in and give you a lot of detail, but I want to just give you a quick overview of what Facebook groups are and what they've meant to me. So here are a couple tips. Find a passion. And ideally, it's at least somewhat directed to real estate. It could even just be real estate, right? I mean, it could just be real estate directly. And then maybe join a group or try and integrate with some of the other leaders. I was able to find this company that talks about home equity lines of credit. And thanks to the things I was posting on Facebook, these guys really gained a lot of respect for me. I joined their group. I even paid $4,000 to be a part of their group and their education, which is a lot like mostly what we teach in Velocity Banking. And they joined Renatus. And now we have this great relationship where they promote me in their group. They let me be the guy, the real estate guy in their group. And I get so many of my leads because I joined this group and I integrated with the leaders. So that's been huge for me. I borrowed an audience, just like Woody Woodward always teaches, right? Borrowed an audience, and that's been huge. So, like I said, you can create a group. You can create your own group. And I've done both. I've got a real estate group. I also have another group I'll talk about in a second. And then you always got to be adding value. You got to be adding good content and just value. Because Jim Rohn once said, if you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want. So money is the exchange of value, and the more value you can give, the more it's going to come back to you. So I'm giving a lot of value in this Facebook group, and it's coming back to me. So let me show you. Oh, and always you got to create a real good community feel. Create a community feel. And that means, being willing to let other people contribute. Ideally you have, maybe you create, if you're a leader of a big team, maybe you create a Facebook group and have everyone in your team join, and you're all posting testimonials, you're posting things that you're learning. That kind of stuff is so powerful. Testimonials sell, right? Stories sell. So having that community feel is really helpful. All right. So let me give you an example of something that I did. A couple tools that I've used. One of them is ManyChat, and if you got the new Profits course, Rob Sperry talks about this tool. It's so helpful. So literally, I mean, you can create a business page, and then anyone who likes or makes comments on your business page posts can get automatically put into this funnel, right? And then with your team, so I use this as a tool. Whenever I sign someone new up to my team, I add them to my ManyChat. And so like they click a little link, subscribe to it. And then, I can send out reminders. I know you guys have similar tools to this, but this works so great in Messenger and in Facebook groups. I mean, it really integrates really well with this. So Rob's going to talk a little bit about that as well. And then let me give you an example of an actual group that I created. I want you to feel like you can believe whatever you want with the whole Corona thing going on. But I felt passionately about helping Americans get back to work. And so I created this group called Let America Work. Again, you may disagree with the premise of it. That's fine. I just wanted to attract people who were adamant about maybe this virus isn't as serious as a lot of people think. And so I wanted to give them a forum to jump in and express their views, express their thoughts, and articles and things like that. So now I've got like 3,200 people join this group really since Nationals. I launched this like right before Nationals. And so in about 5-6 weeks, we've had about, I guess it was a little bit before Nationals, but I've already got 3,200 people in this group, and they're loving the things that I'm posting about. And so, the next goal, every once in a while, I kind of slip in there something about real estate, right? Like I try and make it related to the COVID-19, for instance, I made a post about how I got, 4 offers on this property even during COVID-19. So people could kind of see, oh, Nate's a real estate investor, right? Or I said, hey, I just signed on my first virtual property, due to the COVID circumstance, right? So you got to be careful to be like on point with the topic of the group, but every once in a while I'm throwing in some little things in there. I took a video in front of my Tesla of like an empty hospital in my city, so I'm kind of throwing out some little things to try and hook people and get people interested. And then ultimately what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite them to my business page, and I'm going to probably start sending out some advertisements in that group. So my goal is to get a lot of people from this group to become part of Renatus, right? That was one of the main reasons, aside from my personal passion on this topic. And guys, by any means, don't think you need to jump on some politicized topic. Find a passion, right? If you love the outdoors, right? Maybe make a group about that, or maybe whatever passion you may have, and then try and bring in real estate when you can, but get people, but you can kind of siphon people away a little bit into real estate once you gain their trust and once they see the cool things that you're doing. So that's one example of something that I did to create a Facebook group, right? Oh, and by the way, let me just mention, if you're already in that group, or if you're on my business page or whatever, if I reach out to you, not knowing that you're already a member or not, it's just say something like, I'm in or not as things. Believe me, I'm not trying to recruit anyone who's already been recruited. Just a lot of you guys are my Facebook friends. And I actually have a virtual assistant that does everything. So, although I'd love to talk to, anyone, I barely have enough time to talk to my wife right now. So, if you're in, I'd love to have you follow me, but don't set an appointment to meet with me or something, right? Just because as much as I'd love to meet with you, I barely have enough time to spend with my family, as you can imagine, with everything I got going on. So, but please follow me. I'd love to help you out in any way I can. All right. So, so let's talk a little bit. Let's get into some nuts and bolts here about attraction. Before I jump into that, Jay, is it okay if we do a little bit of Q&A? I don't want to get too far. I know we've got quite a bit of time, so I don't want to jump the gun. Is it okay if we intersperse a little bit of Q&A in between some of this stuff? Or
absolutely, you can just go to the Q&A window and choose whatever questions you want. Do you see the Q&A window at the bottom of your screen there, Nate?
Yeah. Hold on.
Pop that open. There you go.
Okay, so I'm gonna bet I don't want to. I'm a college professor, guys. I don't want to spend too much this time just lecturing at you. So I want to make this interactive. So let's take a little break and do a little interaction. And then I think I've got, in about an hour, we're going to take a break. Is that right, Jay?
Yeah, that'll be fine. And we'll do that when it's right for you. And if you prefer, Nate, we can have one of our moderators read questions to you, however you want to handle it. It's your show.
Yeah, why don't you have, that would probably make it feel a little bit more like me not doing all the talking. So why don't we have one of your moderators read some of the questions. And this is a great time to click on the Q&A and go ahead and ask any other questions that you might have. And yeah, why don't we have a moderator go ahead and
Nate, go ahead and grab your first question. We'll get somebody to fill in and take care of that. Okay.
So Yarden says, as someone who used to be a professor, do you still recommend people going to college? I recommend the College of Real Estate, guys. College of Real Estate. No, I mean, I think there's still some value, like in education, in a formal education. I think it teaches you how to learn. It teaches you how to work. When people ask me that, I mean, I do feel like college is a lot of theory. So, but here's the thing. Here's my general take on the Yarden is that not everybody has what it takes to succeed as an entrepreneur. So to succeed in the regular world, I think you're going to be better off with a college education. So like, for instance, I'm going to have my kids go to college because I don't know if they're going to be able to I don't know if they've got the entrepreneurialism, there's a certain it factor that you need to succeed as a business owner. So it's nice to have something to fall back on. Now, if you're making a go of this, I wouldn't say go and try and do college at the same time. Let's see what you can do, right? But in general, my philosophy is, yeah, I still am going to recommend my kids, to get their education. But certainly, if you ask me, like, what was more valuable, my Renatus education or, my 10 years of other education, I mean, definitely this is the best return on your money ever. So that's a great question.
Hey, Nate, Steve Nomura is asking about, he'd like you to share how you generate leads. Is that something that you want to do now, or do you want to do that toward the latter part when Rob joins us?
The generating leads is actually, the next thing that I'm going to talk about. So I'll catch you on that here in a sec.
All right. Sandra Leonard is asking, do you approach strangers for a 6-foot rule? Oh, because 6-foot rule for Corona.
All right, yeah. It used to be the 3-foot rule, right? Now it's the 6-foot rule. I have done that. I honestly don't focus on it as much just because I shouldn't say that. Here's where I do it the most. I would highly recommend that you go to your local real estate investing associations. their club meetings, and that's, 6 foot rule. That's where I get people. I've gotten a lot of people involved in Renatus by going and connecting with them at networking meetings that are relevant. Maybe it be a real estate investing association. Maybe it be, like an entrepreneur club. Maybe it be like a self-improvement workshop. That's where I've had the best experience. I usually don't just go up and start talking to anybody and everyone, although I know people have succeeded with doing that, but I mostly am targeted where I do the 3 foot rule and make connections that way. So that's a great question.
Okay, here's a question for you. When you choose a topic for a group, do you think that more controversial topics are better than more mainstream ones?
No, I don't think controversial ones are more better. I think that was just happened to be something I felt passionate about at the moment that I created. But I think just anything that you're excited about and you're passionate about, I think the controversial ones can be a little bit of a double-edged sword. So in some ways, I think you're better to not be controversial and to just go with something that you're passionate about. Like
we're also getting questions, Nate, about whether or not you do one-on-one intros yourself all the time, or if you refer people to some of the what we call the BIF system here, or the online presentations. And if you do refer people to the online setups, are you using the Drive system to refer them to specific presenters, or again, are you just doing it yourself and taking it on?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have people watch just either like the Thursday night meeting or like another video. So I have them watch that. So, okay, here's what I do. Here's what I found really effective is I will, find someone who's at least interested in real estate. And then I'll actually set an appointment to meet with them one-on-one. I set an appointment, and then, like in your instance with the amazing BIF system that you have, you might set an appointment to have a chat with them, and then you can say, so set the appointment first. This is something that Dane taught me that I think is super powerful and valuable. Set the appointment first, and then send them your BIF video. Right? Because, and just say something to the effect of, hey, before we meet, because they're already kind of anticipating meeting with you. So I like to say, hey, before we meet, I want you to I need you to watch this. I don't know how long your BIF videos are. Let's say it's 40-minute video. You say, hey, I need you to watch this 40-minute video that explains, my system for helping you to make money or whatever. And then follow and just say, hey, can you watch this today? I commit them, either through Messenger or text, I commit them or on a call, I commit them to watching that video that kind of gives the grand overview, because you don't want to sit and have a one-on-one with someone that has no clue about the price, that doesn't know anything about what we're offering. But I really have found a lot of success in setting that appointment first. And again, sorry if I'm saying anything that might go against whatever system you're doing. So you guys got a great system, but this is just what's been working for me. So I'll set the appointment, send them the video, commit them to watch it that day, and then I follow through with the one-on-one. I just check in with them, make sure that they watch the video, let them know how excited I am. I'll have a testimonial lined up for our one-on-one, and then I just get them rocking and rolling at that point.
What do you mean that you'll have a testimonial lined up for your one-on-one?
So what I mean by that is like that, that Edmund guy, or I've used other people on my team as well that have had some success. I'll start out the call letting them have just a frank conversation with that person before I even get on. That way they can they don't feel like that person's being pressured. That person talks about how amazing Renatus is and yada, yada. and how helpful I've been to them, and then I jump on and close the sale. So it's kind of like a bump set spike sort of thing, right? I get them, bump them with the video, get them interested. Then I set them with the testimonial, and then I spike it down and close the sale.
Okay, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I'm hearing here is that one of the key components of your relationships with your prospects is that you are building rapport with them before you're sending them down a pipe to get information. They know who you are. There's been some contact, and you're building that rapport. Do I have that right?
Absolutely, Jay. So, I like to say that I use warm market strategies. And to be honest, most of the people I'm converting now, like, even though they're in my warm market, they know me. They know everything about me. I'm a pretty open book on Facebook. I don't even know most of these people at all, but I have built a relationship with them online through the Facebook groups and through my personal Facebook messages, right? So I talked a little bit about the Facebook groups. Rob's going to get into that in a lot more depth, but that's a great way to warm someone up. So I'm like almost never meeting with someone who is a cold contact, because even though I don't know them, I've built this relationship. And guys, so this is a longer term play. It's not like sell a bunch of people tomorrow kind of strategy, because the ideal scenario is that you're building a relationship with people. You're getting people amped up and engaged, and then you're selling them, right? So that's been what's worked for me. I get them warmed up through the Facebook group, through my personal profile posts.
Okay, great. Here's another question that I think is interesting here. At a RIA, how do you approach without ticking off the RIA owners?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually haven't ever ticked off the RIA members. You just got to be kind of casual about it. I've kind of made friends with the RIA owners. I kind of try and get them on board with me. But my goal is just to try and get them to come to an event, right? So I think sometimes people tend to say too much in an initial meeting. You want to just really start a conversation and try and get them to come to an event. Build that intrigue. You're not going to tell them everything about Renatus. In fact, I never use the word Renatus. I actually never use that word because I just want to make it more. I just want to make it less. I want to make it more casual, and I don't want them looking up. Any company's going to have its good and its bad written about it on Facebook, on Google and everything. So I'm not using the word Renatus. I just say, hey, I'm part of this amazing investing community. I'd love to show, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, we have pretty regular meetings. I'd love for you to connect with John, who's doing this and this and this. Talk about the people they can meet and how they have really regular meetings. And you might tick off a leader or two, but I actually haven't really had experience. In fact, a lot of them even asked me to come and do training at their events, right? So you just got to walk a fine line and not be too pushy about it, but try and create some intrigue about, there's this amazing community that you can learn from on a weekly basis, So that's how I would approach it.
Okay, great. We're getting a lot of really good questions here. I hope I can keep up with these. And Candy, I hope I'm not throwing you by jumping around. So I'm doing my best here. Here's a question that I like. What percentage of your Facebook posts are related to real estate when you post on a personal page or a business page and a group?
That's a really good question. So I would, one of the things Rob says is to try to not have too high of a proportion be about real estate, right? You want to look like a full person. I'm going to talk about this a little bit in the next section of my training, but I would recommend probably probably make the real estate side be only 25 to maybe as much as 50%, but not higher than that. You want them to see you as a person. You want them to see you in these other facets and dimensions of life rather than just real estate.
Okay, great. Now here's a question I know that every single ICM on this training wants to know the answer to, myself included. Most people want to start at essentials. How are you able to show the comp plan to get so many EPX combos?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have a little bit of a different approach, and I think both approaches are very valid. And my approach is really real estate focused, and it's partly why I guess I'm probably not the best one to learn from in terms of building an awesome, huge, thriving team. You guys have the best example there with Scott and Nancy. I really lead with real estate, and then I talk about the compensation plan really kind of after they've joined, maybe a few weeks into it, or I don't really push it that strongly. So I guess my approach to sell so many combos is I really have a mindset of like, I just want to pretty much just sell combos. And so I look for people who are pretty serious about real estate and let them know, hey, like this is a good start, but to really be able to maximize what you can do, you need to really jump in and get your full education to make this happen and to be successful.
I think that's a really interesting answer that you just gave. I want to repeat the answer and make sure I've got it right. And I do not want to put words in your mouth, but I hear you saying that your attitude is driving their purchase. And when I say your attitude, what I really mean is your confidence is driving that purchase. It sounds to me like you show absolutely no fear when you talk about the extreme combo and now the EPX because you believe in it. And they come along with that belief. Is that right?
I do. I mean, I show them all the options, but really after I've done my job compliance wise to show them all the options that are on the table, I'm really just focused on the EPX, I mean, this is what you need. This is what you got to do. Like that. I have that mindset and they kind of follow suit. I'm not, a lot of times people act like they have this concern about the price. Really, usually it's a concern about something else, right? They need to be a 10 out of 10 on the product. They need to be a 10 out of 10 on you. They need to be a 10 out of 10 on their own ability to make this happen, right? So you need to get them to a 10 out of 10 on all those dimensions, as the Wolf of Wall Street teaches in his book. And a lot of times people say the price is the reason. And a lot of times, if you're always you want to sell essentials, your natural tendency when everyone brings up a price, a problem with price, your automatic response is to just sell them in essentials, right? So my thought is I try and just resolve whatever their concerns are by asking questions, by really repeating. People love it when you repeat their concerns, and then they're going to open up and really talk to you about what maybe their true concern is, which usually actually isn't the price. It's usually something else. And so I would just be careful not to go too quickly to okay, go ahead, and why don't we just start you here at the essentials, right? That would be, because I believe in it strongly, and I think that's partly why I'm able to sell so many combos.
I think you've touched on something very, very powerful, and I know that a lot, I'm going to say most ICMs deal with this. I know they do. I see it happen around me all the time. There's this fear of price because they have a fear of price. So what advice might you give to an ICM to build their personal confidence to get past that price barrier? Because what I hear you saying is that the price barrier, more often than not, resides within the ICM and not the prospect.
Yes. The ICM is so afraid of this price, and so it just becomes a huge barrier. So I would just tell the ICM, you need to make sure you're watching your classes yourself, that you're getting that value. I mean, literally, I was just telling Bob yesterday, the national conference has already made me like $125,000, right? I mean, there's so much value here. So when you surround yourself by, even if you aren't yet having results and succeeding, if you can surround yourself, whether it be on Facebook or other ways of surrounding yourself with the success stories, that's going to help put into your brain and your heart that this is real, that this is legit, and this is something that can really change someone's life. Because once you truly believe that, it's going to be much easier to sell it without having that, I can't like ask him to spend $23,000, So yeah, exactly, Jay. That's a great point.
Okay, great. Now here's another question, slightly onto a different topic here. Earlier, Nancy Rowe shared ads that worked for her. So the question is, do you have any ads that worked for you, if you even used ads at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think I don't so much use ads because I'm trying to build a relationship first, right? But I do use hooks. So, I might, one of my biggest hooks is to use Messenger, right? I mean, once you built some relationship, I think one of the biggest hooks is just a simple question. Have you ever been interested in real estate investing, right? I mean, I know it sounds super simple, but that can get the conversation started. And a lot of people will say yes. And then if they say yes, I say, hey, are you interested in being like an active investor, like finding properties and running flips, or you want to just be a passive investor where you're just getting checks in the mail, and so I found a lot of lenders, right? Because I do a lot of real estate deals, about 20 flips a year. And so, I'm getting a lot of lenders from that question. So I love, Dane talks about the 3 boxes, actually the 4 boxes. And, one is they're going to be in the Renatus box. That's the active real estate investor. Or 2, they're going to be maybe a money lender for you. 3, here, I better not put that finger up by itself. 3.
This is a family show, Nate.
Yeah, I know, right? So I'll keep the number 3, they might actually have a problem themselves. Maybe they're in default. Maybe they're struggling, they're behind. So you might be able to get a property from that contact. Or number 4, they're not quite ready yet. So not yet. So here's the nice thing about a hook question like that. Are you interested in real estate? You can start, and if you have a broader perspective about how you approach every person you talk to, as being, it's not just whether they're interested in Renatus itself. Not everybody's ready for that, but they might be able to help you in one of those other areas, whether it be a money lender or actually maybe they aren't struggling themselves, but they know somewhere else where you can find a deal, right? They might have a contact for you. So it's kind of like a triple dip on every prospect conversation that you're having with these people.
I love that approach because, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I'm hearing is that because you're engaging and you're asking open-ended questions, you're not boxed into the result. You're open to whatever result comes your way, whether it's you've made a connection with a new lender, maybe a new partner, maybe an education sale. You're open to whatever comes out of the conversation, but you're out there engaging people constantly, asking questions, finding out about people, and letting them open up to you, letting them reveal to you where you should go with the conversation.
Exactly. Yep. Great summary, Jay.
Okay, well, that's a very powerful precept of what we do, and I'm repeating it because I hear the same problems we all do from all our ICMs, so I think that can be very helpful. So here's another question. Well, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little bit before. Do you also have essentials sales? Out of your 30 combos, how do you have X combo sales instead of essentials? I'm not, maybe you've answered that, or if there's something else you want to elaborate on or not, let me know.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm always going for the combo, and I try and get them started wherever possible to at least be able to. Maybe they don't have 23,000 today, but they have 2,000 to start. I don't act like that's the end point, but it's oftentimes a great opportunity for them to unlock some classes while they're gearing up and getting the funding for the rest of their education. So I guess I would say that I often sell a lot of essentials as kind of a stepping stone to their combo, because I want to get them involved immediately, because as you know, it takes some time to get the funding. So I like to get them started ASAP on whatever level they can. But the idea is, this is just a temporary move until we get the rest of your funds in place. So I guess I would say I sell a ton of essentials, but I never talk about the essentials as the end goal. It's just, here, let's get you watching some classes today, and then we'll unlock the rest of your classes as soon as your Credit Nerds application goes through, right?
Great strategy. Okay, I'm going to throw 3 questions at you right now because they're kind of related, I think, too, or pretty much identical. So if you don't use Biff, what video do you send them to? And then what video do you send your leads to? There's the same question. And then last, after a guest sees a video and then meet with you one-on-one, are you placing the order at that one-on-one meeting?
Yes. Okay, so I do. So I don't use the Biff, right? Because I have a different system, but I have my own video that people watch that I've created, and it's just for me, really. That's why I don't really share that out, because it's getting people to come into my system, essentially, right? And so I have them, but for you guys, the Biff videos are amazing and awesome. So definitely use that. And like I say, I like the idea of setting the appointment, sending them your Biff video. And then, my goal at the end of that conversation is to have them enrolled in their essentials education. Again, not at being the end goal, but as, let's get you started on these classes. You're going to love them. And then let's get you funded for the rest. So
in other words, the next step.
Yeah. So my goal is always to get them to plunk out $2,000 on that first one-on-one call. I want to get them to commit, not only with their mind, but with their pocketbook. And then, my goal is to get them applying, for funding, ideally at the end of that meeting as well. But at least get them on their essentials so they can. I find that when people unlock their education and they see how awesome it is, if they actually have time to watch that week, sometimes people just don't get in and watch it, but almost everybody that jumps in and watches loves it. So that, especially like I tell them to watch Mark Kohler, the people that watch Mark Kohler he's made me a lot of money, right? So get people in on their education as soon as possible.
Great. And then my follow-up question to that is, I'm assuming you do your own follow-ups. Is that correct?
Yes, I do all of my own follow-ups. Like I say, I always have like a testimonial person. I have a couple that I use, and I always have that. That's like a key part of every meeting. I have someone that's had success on my team be a part of that. And I do all of my own. Now, if you're inexperienced, I'd probably turn to your 5-star affiliate and see if they can help you out with those one-on-ones until you get more experience. I know you guys have some group one-on-ones, which are awesome, but the money is made in the individual follow-up. It doesn't have to be just you and them, but if, like you and maybe your 5-star affiliate in them, right? I mean, that's where so much of the magic happens, when you can resolve their individual concerns. Now, I use the group follow-up as well. Like I think you should, as much exposure as you can get, but when they're going to be making the purchase decisions is when you're talking to them in a one-on-one.
Yeah, I think that goes right back to what we were talking about earlier, building that personal relationship and the individual rapport where they can feel trust and confidence in where their money is going to go. So my buddy Ian Key is asking a question here that I like. How many groups are you in? Do you go for a lot of exposure or just one or two for quality? So he's asking, are you going for quantity or quality, or are you doing both?
I'm in a fair number of groups, but I think the quality is more important than the quantity, for sure.
Okay, great. Now here's a question I don't completely understand, and what I'm revealing here is my technological ignorance. Maybe you'll know this. The question is this: do you ever use a bot? And if you do, what is the name of the program that you use?
Yes, so I briefly touched on it. ManyChat is the bot that I use. I've literally set up, like, for my onboarding system, when I'm trying to get someone into all the systems and tools that we offer in Renatus, I have a bot kind of walking them through each step. So I'll send them an initial message, and then my artificial intelligence bot comes in and leads them through all the rest of the steps to get them fully onboarded with all of our systems and tools. And I use that same system with the ManyChat bot I use that as a prospecting tool as well.
So that everybody's clear on that, can you spell that? I'm hearing Manny like.
Yeah, like MANY chat, ManyChat.
Oh, got it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll tell Rob to kind of jump in, or I might even show you what it kind of looks like if I have time.
Fabulous. All right, here's another great question. What does your elevator speech sound like? Give us your elevator speech.
Okay, yeah. So, my elevator speech, I think, would be something like this. Hey, to be honest, like I am focused more on, I do have sort of an elevator speech, but I think it's most effective to spend your time focusing on them rather than telling them about you. So I try and focus on them, and then I always kind of start talking a little. I share a little bit about me and about some of the success I've had in real estate, and with the goal of getting them to an exposure, right? So yeah, I guess it always changes because I'm always seeking to learn first. I'm always seeking to ask questions, because that gives me the cues that I need to know how I can sell them, right? So I'm listening, and then I'm asking follow-up questions to kind of lead them to some intrigue based on what they've shared with me about themselves.
Well, listen, this is not my training. This is yours, but I have to interject here because what you just put out there is, in my opinion, the essence of everything we do. And I think a lot of ICMs miss that point. It is about the prospect. It's not about us. And the better we get at ferreting out what their problem is, what their issue is, and that's all you're talking about right there, the better we get at enrolling them in Renatus Education Services. All right, a lot of people in real estate groups have spent a lot of money on education. This is a better product than any other. Here, I couldn't agree more. Is that part of what you use? Do you use that as part of your pitch?
Oh, that our product is so great?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely share my story. I share my story all the time with people. And the great thing about my story is it really shows my journey and how, I always call these guru companies the circus. That seems to really connect with people because it's like, yeah, they come into town, give you a good show for a few days, and then they leave town. We're the people that are here all the time, right? So I definitely, and if you haven't been a part of other real estate companies, you're lucky. You don't really realize just how much better this is than all those other companies, and partly why I believe in this so strongly. And but I would definitely, again, wouldn't bash on the specific names necessarily, but for me, that circus thing has really seemed to connect with people well. And I'll give you permission to use that if you want. And just be like, hey, these gurus are like the circus. They come into town, give you a good show for a few days, and then they leave town, and you're stuck trying to figure this out on your own.
Well, you have to admit, as circuses go, those are pretty good circuses, aren't they?
They are. I mean, they get you hyped up. I mean, and I gotta be honest. I don't tell prospects this, but I'm really kind of grateful for those circuses, because I don't know if I would have got amped up enough about real estate to devote this kind of time into this journey if they hadn't given me such a great circus act. Now, they didn't really deliver in the end, but it was a great part of my journey, and I did learn some things. But again, the powerful thing about it is that Renatus is the full package. It's the full package, guys, and that's so telling that kind of thing without maybe disparaging specific groups is a great way to show, especially the support, because that's the secret sauce, guys. I think is the communities that we have, the relationships, because real estate is about relationships. And Renatus has given us this opportunity to build relationships.
Great. I'm getting some questions here on a topic that's near and dear to me, something I struggle with. Can you ask, well, we're asking, how do you manage your daily and weekly schedule? Time management. That's a huge one for me, I know. We're getting this from Gene Powers, and we got a couple other people here on the line are asking about that. What can you tell us?
Yeah, that's a great question. And let's I'll make this the last question before we go to break. And then what I'll do is I'll probably have some time at the end for any other remaining questions. So keep typing out those questions. We should have some time at the end. After I'm done with this one, we'll take a 15-minute break, and then I'll resume with some training, and then we'll hit some more Q&A at the end before I bring in the eminent Rob Sperry on. But yeah, let me talk about schedule, because that is so important, guys. It is huge. And for me, I'm telling you, trying to juggle this, trying to sell 21 combos in 33 days while moving. And I mean, it was insane. So, I've had to get really good at time management. Let me give you a few tips. So, I've mentioned this briefly, but let me just show you again. This is where my morning starts, is running on that treadmill. I am multitasking. I am starting in a peak state every day. That's the first thing I do. I hop on, run for 20 to 25 minutes. And while I'm running, here's what I do. I am starting off with my affirmations. I have about 4 minutes of affirmations that I do. If people are really interested, you can type in the chat. Maybe at the next Q&A session, I can jump into what some of those affirmations are to give you some example. But so I'm shouting out those affirmations. One of my favorites. Here's my favorite one. I don't need them. They need me. I am the prize, right? I am the prize, right? Because then the idea is that I'm not pursuing other people. They need me. They need what I have to offer. We all have something amazing to offer with this Renatus education, and we are the prize. What we offer is the prize. So that's one of my most powerful affirmations. So I'm starting off with affirmations, and then I'm looking at my vision board, which has, I'm going to talk about the different categories of life: family, faith, fitness, finance, fun, future, and philanthropy. But I have all those areas, those 7 areas represented in my vision board. I'm looking at that and putting myself in a peak state. Then I'm actually meditating. I know it sounds weird to meditate while you run, but I'm focusing on my breath. I'm listening to the Headspace app. I'm putting myself, again, in the morning is so important because it sets the tone for the rest of the day. And then in terms of time management, I mean, I have I try and have 3 or 4 main core goals that I'm trying to get through. And I'm not spending too much time on social media. I'm not spending much time watching TV. I'm trying to be, I'm trying to multitask as much as I can. I'm listening whenever I'm in the car driving, or I'm on the phone making calls. So I'm maximizing every minute, and again, I'm focusing. Here's probably the most important thing for you about time management is you gotta focus on income producing activities. You can feel like you're so busy doing so many things, but if you're not focused on income producing activities, you're not making any money at the end of the day. So first, make sure you're having your miracle morning. And second, you gotta make sure that you're prioritizing sending out your Facebook messages, right? Making your posts on Facebook, that you're dialing and calling and inviting the people to meetings, following up with those people, having the conversations, ideally on the phone whenever possible. Whenever you're talking to a prospect, bringing them to the meeting, following up with them, those are the money making, having a one-on-one, those are the money making activities. Those are the most important things that you want to quantify. So, have your goals. How many one-on-ones are you going to have every week? How many people are you going to invite? Those are probably the 2 key metrics. How many people are you going to invite and initiate a conversation with? How many people are you going to have a one-on-one with? Those are your 2 most important metrics to determine how much money you're going to make. So make sure you're doing those things first, and then everything else can kind of fall into place. So
that's great advice. That's great advice. If I may, because we're running just at the top of the hour now, we've got about 2 minutes. Would you allow me to just clear 3 questions real quickly with you here? All right, great. Because they're kind of related here. Where did you find your virtual assistant, and what's the cost is one. How often do you post in your group? And then the last question kind of ties in here. With a group, you find a passion, and then how many subgroups for the group? For example, sustainable living with subgroups of zero emission homes, solar energy, gray water systems, hydroponic gardens, et cetera, et cetera. So how many subgroups? How often do you post? And how do you handle your virtual assistants? And then we'll go to break when you're done there.
Yeah. So I have a virtual assistant that I hired through Upwork, and I'll just share my screen here. Here's some of the cool things you can do when you're actually just
UPWORK.
Yeah, Upwork. Yep. And I have here's a spreadsheet I just created. All right, so here's my schedule. So he keeps track of his time. I pay him $8 an hour, which is actually on the high end. I'm thinking I might try and find someone. I know Rob's got someone for $3 an hour that's been pretty good for him. But, ideally you want to post every day if possible. So here's something that I just created. Here's all I've literally planned out the next 2.5 weeks of posts, right? So here's the day that I posted it on my personal Facebook page. Kind of gives him a little bit of an idea of what it's about, so he doesn't accidentally post the wrong one in case I made more than one post that day. And then, here's the schedule for his schedule for posting. And then I have, a couple of real estate groups. I have this, Let America Work group. I have my real estate group. I have an onboarding group. So I have a couple of groups. So if you have a couple pages already, Hootsuite.com can help you post to multiple, like Instagram, and it can post to YouTube. It can post to anyway, all the different social media platforms, you can kind of post simultaneously. So that's one way to kind of make it go faster. But yeah, so I have, a handful of groups that I just post to, and I'm actually not the one that's posting to it. I'm having my assistant post to these different groups for me. He just copies. I just give him my Facebook, and he just jumps in there and posts stuff. He sends messages on my behalf. So he'll send about 30 messages with kind of like a hook message, like I talked about with like, are you interested in real estate investing kind of thing. He'll send that out to like people in my groups or that I'm a part of. And then I pick up after that. So he does a lot of the work for me, which is how I've been able to reach so many people, because I've got a great virtual assistant who's doing a lot of the work for me.
That's great. Well, we talk about leveraging in real estate, and this is leveraging in marketing. It's the same thing. We're just using people instead of money, and we're not abusing them. We're simply using them. So that is great stuff, Nate. I love this mastermind feel of this. So let's go to break right now. What do you need? You want 10, 15? Can we come back at 3:15 Central?
Yeah.
All right, that'll work for you. All right.